What do they call you, mate?
Andrea.
Andrea?
Yes.
The time's 14:35. At this moment in time, you're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you don't mention when questioned something which you later rely on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence. Do you understand that?
Meet Andrea Cardinale, a 20-year-old who is about to be taken into custody, likely never to taste freedom again. Just hours ago, on December 21st, 2022, he committed a brutal act, ending the lives of a young couple in such a horrific manner. After he killed them, he claimed to have their voices in his head and that they were telling him to burn their bodies. This is shortly before their tragic demise. The couple shared a final kiss, blissfully unaware of the horror about to unfold. Their peace shattered by the presence of a masked intruder, armed with a knife and a sledgehammer. Truly terrifying. This case was tragic on so many levels, as you're about to find out. But before we dive in, I want to let you know about my second channel called Grim Tales, where I am covering true crime stories that are shocking but not murderous. I think if you find this content interesting, then you should see what's over there. Link to the channel is in the comments. And don't forget to like this video if you want to see my next one. It really helps me out. Thank you. This video is created solely for educational and documentary purposes. It does not endorse or condone the criminal actions described within. Antonino Calabro, also known as Nino, is pictured here enjoying drinks with his girlfriend, Francesca De Dio. Francesca, visiting from Italy for the Christmas holidays, has come to Stockton Teesside to spend time with Nino. In this post, Francesca expressed how in love she is. Both of them hailed from Italy and shared a deep connection. Nino and his best friend, Andrea Cardinale, who would later become his murderer, attended a croupier school together in Italy. In 2019, they moved to England and were soon recruited by the Grosvenor Casino in Stockton. The pair also shared accommodation in a converted pub, marking a significant chapter in their lives before tragedy struck. A friend and fellow ex-housemate of the pair spoke anomalously. He said, and quote, "Nino was the party guy, an outgoing personality. He called Andre his brother, and they were best friends over there. Nino tried to help him when it was obvious he had mental health problems. The man says that the ladies loved Nino because of his big personality, but that Cardinale was quiet and was a bit socially awkward. He did say that Cardinale was wise for his years though." He continued, "There was a lot of jealousy involved. Nino had a girlfriend. He was popular." Then he speaks about Cardinale. His family, his grandma I think, kept sending him parcels of meats and coffee. He didn't like English food. Andrea was a bit isolated. Although Cardinale had struggled with mental health issues, this was a period when things seemed stable. Meanwhile, Nino had clear dreams and aspirations to become an entrepreneur, which prompted Cardinale to reflect on his own future. In 2021, Cardinale took an opportunity to transfer to the Luton branch of their casino, seeing it as a stepping stone towards the lucrative Mayfair casinos. Unfortunately, his plans did not unfold as expected. He struggled to get along with the new staff and soon found himself relocating to Scotland, where he took a job as a pipe layer, a position he disliked and felt even more cut off. His time there ended abruptly due to what was described as odd behaviour and a lack of work ethic. However, Cardinale claimed that the people were talking about him behind his back. Feeling increasingly isolated and disillusioned, Cardinale returned to Stockton and moved back into the shared accommodation with Nino. By then, his mental health had severely deteriorated. Cardinale's behaviour had begun to cause concern for his family and friends, and he returned home to Sicily in November 2022, along with Nino. He appeared obsessed with his upbringing, blaming his mother for the violence that they both suffered at the hands of his father. He was convinced the world was against him. He sought treatment for depression, but didn't attend the follow-up appointment. Cardinale also told his father he was being watched by, and quote, the evil eye. He also claimed that he was hearing voices. Despite his family's pleas for him to stay in Sicily, he and Nino returned to England. In an attempt to bring him back home, his mother purchased a plane ticket for him to return for Christmas, which he chose to ignore. In the weeks leading up to Christmas, Francesca joined Nino at the converted pub where they were living. During this time, Cardinale's mental state deteriorated even further, and he developed an obsession with witchcraft. He became convinced that Nino and Francesca had cast a spell on him, which he blamed for causing his teeth to fall out and also making him impotent. In his disturbed state of mind, Cardinale believed that the only way to break this supposed spell was to kill them. The anonymous former housemate said that during this time, Cardinale had stopped replying to his texts and that he broke off contact with many people. In the days leading up to the tragic event, Cardinale was plagued by voices urging him to murder Nino and Francesca. In preparation, he ordered a sledgehammer, planning a heinous attack. In the early hours of June 21st, driven by a manic state and suffering from severe sleep deprivation, Cardinale executed his plan. He put on a black balaclava and armed himself with both a knife and a sledgehammer. He entered Nino's unlocked bedroom, stealthily approaching Nino's side of the bed. He raised the sledgehammer slowly above his head and forcefully brought it down onto Nino's skull with a swift and brutal strike. The attack woke Francesca, who, in a state of panic, screamed and ran for her life. Cardinale had time for a second strike on Nino before chasing after the terrified Francesca. CCTV footage captured Cardinale in his balaclava, chasing Francesca up the stairs with a knife in hand. The terror she must have felt is unimaginable. I wonder if she recognised her assailant. Catching up to her at the top of the stairs, Cardinale is seen holding her. Then he grabs his sledgehammer and drags Francesca down the stairs towards the basement. There, Francesca was struck twice in the head with the sledgehammer, in the same way as Nino, before being stabbed multiple times in the chest. Returning to where Nino lay, Cardinale inflicted additional stab wounds to his chest, completing his horrific assault. The post-mortem examination revealed that Nino and Francesca's cause of death was by blows to the head, resulting in skull fractures and brain bleeding. According to the pathologist, both victims would have been rendered unconscious within half an hour of the attack. Shortly after, Cardinale can be seen on CCTV buying diesel and a lighter. He then went back to the flat and doused the bedroom and other parts of the body in fuel, but he couldn't ignite it. He later told the police that he couldn't bring himself to do it. At this time, Cardinale's father had been staying at a hotel not far away. He was there to try and convince his son to come back to Italy with him. The father made his way to the house just before lunch. The door was not locked, so he entered, and although his son was nowhere to be seen, he did find the bodies of Nino and Francesca. The father did not speak English, so thinking on his feet, he rang the authorities in Rome, who raised the alarm with Interpol and Cleveland police. Quickly, the authorities and crime scene investigators could be seen around the building. They had to cordon off the street. Cardinale was arrested that afternoon at 2:30 p.m. He was found wandering the streets and put up no resistance at all. He later told the police that he killed his friends because he believed that they had been conjuring and putting curses on him. Investigators looked at his phone and found searches including dynamite and how to make deadly weapons. He also searched for voodoo and how to remove the evil eye. Officers took him to the hospital after he had told them that he had OD'd. The anonymous former friend and housemate said that after the murder, and quote, "The security lady from the casino called me to ask me if I had Cardinale's number. She said that there were police outside the flat. The whole thing was horrifying. I thought they'd had an argument that got out of hand. But Cardinale had calmly and collectively made a plan. He put on a balaclava. That's not just a moment of madness. I remember when Italy knocked England out of the World Cup during the Euros. We were all in the casino and the Italians were getting a bit of grief for it. Back in the flat, I had a sort of play fight with Cardinale. We were drunk, but he gave me this look. His eyes were glazed. He was like a psychopath." Cardinale denied murder, but pleaded guilty to 2 counts of manslaughter by reason of diminished responsibility. Judge Paul Weston KC detained Cardinale to a secure hospital, saying it would not be appropriate to jail him, but said the order was without limitations of time. He told Cardinale, "For some time prior to the killing, you had clearly been suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, which represented itself in an acute and graphic way in the early hours of that day. It was truly awful, unimaginable, and the consequences to the families of Antonino and Francesca have been utterly devastating. This sentence, therefore, is a hospital order. I make it clear that I envisage your treatment in hospital in secure conditions for a very long time." The court heard 3 psychiatric experts agree that the defendant's unrecognized psychosis was the substantial reason for the killings. The illness was so acute that his culpability for the killing is minimal. A statement from Francesca's mother, Anna Nossi, read in court said, "The death of my daughter Francesca has completely overturned and destroyed my life. Since her death, we can no longer find inner peace. We no longer sleep at night because our thoughts are all about our daughter. I often go to the cemetery and talk to my daughter, looking at the small picture on the tombstone, hoping for her to answer." Nino's father, Salvatore Calabro, said in a statement, "I and my family want to first thank the British people for their great moral and psychological support. As a father, I constantly have the feeling that my heart in my chest is slowing its pace. Perhaps this is the famous heartbreak. My wife Salvina and my daughter Alessandra also tell me that they feel the same. The evenings are very trying because that was when Nino would video call us, and often now we go to sleep for many hours. The good times we had with our son flashing before us." I want to add that in court it was mentioned that before his illness, Cardinale was a man of decent character and a good person, which makes it all the more tragic what happened. Thank you for watching. Until next time, stay sane.